Well, we are here to talk about the role of community self-help groups and faith-based groups in recovery. My name is Dr. Kathy Walczak, and I am from Union Commonwealth University, formerly known as Union College. And we are looking at different ways that we're using self-help on campus. And one of the things that we've been looking at for a long while is to trying to get some Al-Anon groups started. We've had a lot of, we haven't had a lot of need, not necessarily need. We haven't had a lot of AA groups that have been, people going to AA or Narcotics Anonymous or anything like that. But in our area, there is such a need for people who are, there's so many people that are from dysfunctional families, alcoholic families, drug addicted families. And that's how they've grown up in southeastern Kentucky. And that's one of the things that we've been looking at quite a bit is to how do we start the self-help groups on campus. We'll let you talk about.
Just jump on in.
Just jump on in. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I'm just going to talk regular other format. All right, cool. Yeah. I'm Beth. I'm with Alcoholics Anonymous, and based on your introduction, we are really falling short on our responsibility because that's what we do. We are a 12-step fellowship. I know that this panel was titled self-help and faith-based. I would better describe the Alcoholics Anonymous program as self-discipline and spirit-based. And what I mean by that is that we have 12 steps. We are a 12-step program, but Alcoholics Anonymous is a 12-step program exclusively for persons who have a problem with alcohol. I speak more closely to that because of the vital component of identification. So I'll go ahead and kind of read what our preamble is, and that gives you a better understanding of who we are. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for a membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So we understand that the medical community and that the legal systems are on our front lines now. Back when our fellowship was constructed, we were on our front lines. We were the ones that were entering the hospitals and the institutions and the judicial system. We were the ones that were intervening with those who had a drinking problem and needed a solution and couldn't find one. Over time, agencies have been established such that now the professionals are the ones that are on our front lines. So what we've adopted is the role that I serve currently. It's called Cooperation with Professional Communities. And so it's my responsibility to make sure that you as the professionals know that we exist. So like she was saying, if there is not an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in a community where there are people who are suffering from alcoholism, that's on us. That's where we have to step in. That's where we're the ones that have the responsibility to make that play. Again, I speak to the vitality of identification. She's not going to listen to me unless I can describe how she's feeling and how she's thinking. Because when I needed a solution, I couldn't describe how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking, but she could. And that's what's required for us in regards to sharing the discipline, going back to the self-discipline of this program. I'm not going to do it unless you can show me that it's going to serve me better. That's just the nature of alcoholism. And that's also the success of alcoholism. Alcoholics Anonymous, the fact that we can share with each other, that we have this common solution. So again, my role is to make sure that you know how to get in touch with us. We're a fellowship that survives solely on recovery, and that begins with one alcoholic working with another. So something else I want to read with the group. Our book states specifically, highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss the situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor. But the ex-problem drinker who's found the solution, who's properly armed with the facts about themselves, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours, and until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. And we know that. We know that to be true. So what we do is everything we can in order to help you help us. And helping you help us means we provide literature. We're self-supporting. We'll provide that literature. We establish meetings in communities of need. We have that responsibility. We have intergroup offices, and that's how we can make contacts for you to give to somebody that you know that may be suffering or has a family member that's suffering, that they can reach out and actually make a phone call to reach one of us so that we can have exactly what I'm describing, that one-on-one communication of a recovered alcoholic with a suffering alcoholic. So if anybody has any questions, I know we're gonna have a Q&A session, but just to go ahead and bring it in, we have a general service office that's easily reached online, area26.org online, and I'm here, right here. And so I'm collecting any contact information, and I'm happy to share my resources electronically, phone calls, anything else that you might have. Thank you.
And I would be Sam, and I'm with the Al-Anon program. I've been in Al-Anon since 1986. And I was married to the first alcoholic I was married to. He was sober when I met him. And I started going to AA meetings with him. And they told me I didn't have any DUIs, or I hadn't drunk enough to where I'd have to go in the other room. I tell you, I liked it in their room. And if you ever go to their rooms, you probably will like it in their rooms also, because there's some solutions that's found in the AA rooms that you can't find anywhere else. And they told me I need to go in the other room. Well, the other room was the Al-Anon room. And I went in the Al-Anon room, and there was these little ladies in there, and they each one had a man out there in the other room that had drank too much, drank his part and somebody else's too. And so they were in there, and they opened our meetings with the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And how many times we stress through the years the courage to change, the willingness to change, to get to that place of wisdom to where we know what can change and what will change, whether we change it or not. Because when we got to Al-Anon, we wanted to change everything about our world and his world or her world, because everything was wrong. There was a lot of pain and disappointment. And we found when we came into the rooms that they told us there are 3 C's. You can't control it, you didn't cure it, you didn't cause it, and you can't cure it. Well, that was a surprise to me, because I lived every day thinking there's one more thing that I can do that will persuade him not to drink anymore. And I never did find that one more thing. But he found it, and he found it in AA. And so I'll always be grateful to AA, because they brought sobriety into my husband's life and brought me into the rooms of Al-Anon. I found so much love and so much comfort in there. We have the same steps that AA has that she just read, except the only requirement for membership in Al-Anon is that there be a relative or a friend that has a problem with alcohol. And, you know, when you think about that, just about everybody knows somebody that has a problem with alcohol. Because the thing with alcohol doesn't start out to be a problem. It starts off to be the solution. You know, it's a matter of self-medicating. And I found out, and I find out with some other people in the groups as we meet weekly in our home group, and we share about what got us here and what keeps us here. And so many of us, we thought that we had more power that we didn't have. And they told us that first step says that we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. Well, here I am, a teetotaler, been a Baptist all my life. And the first step says that I'm powerless over alcohol. I think not, he's in there in that other room. And I stayed long enough to realize, and it took me a long time because it's difficult for me to learn new material. And I stayed long enough, which has been since 1986 now, to realize that not only am I powerless over alcohol, I'm powerless over situations and people, places, and things. I'm powerless over so much. But they told me that I worked those 12 steps, which we got from AA, that by the time I get to the 12th step, I will have had a spiritual awakening as a result of those steps. And for people like me that have come to our rooms, there's no other way of getting that. I sat on the pews in church for 40 years all my life, and I never looked at the exact nature of what's wrong with me. And in that 5th step that we have in Al-Anon, I realized that the exact nature of why I did what I did and when I did it was the same thing as when he drank. I was self-centered, and from that self-centeredness came so much fear and so much shame. And so I got to look at, when I did our 5th step in Al-Anon, the exact nature of my wrongs was I'm scared to death of everything that I can't control, and I can't control anything. And so my life was truly unmanageable, and it gave me a hope and a power greater than myself that we say that we choose to call God. And I can't, but he can, and I think I'll let him. And so in Al-Anon, I used to love it when it got to the closing, because it meant that's through talking and I could go. And I could get out there in that other room where all the fun was, there's always laughing and carrying on. That's having a big time. And so I wanted to get out there where they were. And of course, I wanted to watch him because I didn't know who he might be hooking up with. And so I needed to watch him, And that was one way I thought I had some power, I'll nip that in the bud. But so they had this beautiful way of closing, and our closing says some wonderful things in Al-Anon. It says, you may not like all of us. Well, that's news to me. I sat on the church pews for 40 years, and I thought I had to like everybody. Whether I liked them or not, I was supposed to act like I did, You don't know anything about that. So I heard him say that, let there be no gossip or criticism among you. What? Every Sunday after church, we went home to my father-in-law's and we talked about everything that happened to everybody that had happened to him. And Al-Anon says, let there be no gossip or criticism among you. Instead, let the love and peace of the program grow in you one day at a time. I know this is the strangest stuff I ever heard in my life. And I stayed because it was so strange. I thought I had figured out what this is all about. And I'm there today after all these years. It'd be, I guess, 30 years, 40 or something, a lifetime ago. And I was a young woman when I came to the rooms of Al-Anon. They didn't do this to me, life did. But I've been there a long time. And I've been there long enough to know that anybody you all can send to us, to our rooms, we welcome them. And we give them help and comfort. We listen to them. And we're there for them, and they will not leave our rooms without knowing that. And so send your people our way, your families, because everybody's family has been touched with alcohol. And it's a disease of, alcohol. I found out recently, alcohol is not the problem. It's the alcoholic's way of dealing with the problem. The problem is the self-centeredness, like the big book says. It says the self-centeredness and a lack of control, and the alcoholic. I can relate to that, and a lot of people that never can any other way until you get to work in those steps. You can't see your self-centeredness. You can't see how your fear and your shame. And when you get to the steps in the room where we work those steps, you'll find if you get a sponsor and you work that step and she helps you, he helps you see the exact nature of what in the dickens is wrong with me? Why is I doing that? And it's a wonderful deliverance to know that you can find help and it's there for you. And I thank you all for listening today. I love to share the message. Thank you.
My name's Terry Tipton, and I guess I'm coming at this from both angles, both from self-help and faith-based groups. Pastored for 25 years. Joined a ministry in Lynch named Meridzo Center Ministries. That is a parachurch mission that was founded in 1999 with the mindset of helping people and sharing Jesus, however God gave us resources to do so. While pastoring churches, we would send mission teams to Lynch, Kentucky. Last place I lived before I lived in Lynch, Kentucky was Paducah, Kentucky. So I've been from one side of the state to the other. And my involvement, I guess, with in the self-help group that I would represent would be Celebrate Recovery. And how I got involved with that really came about because of a prayer. After I'd been in Lynch for 5 months, I started pastoring a church there as well. And when I took on that pastoral role, my prayer was to the Lord, teach me how to change the culture in this valley. And we saw a lot of hopelessness. Of course, most folks are familiar with the coal mines, many of the coal mines shutting down, a lot of income, people moving out. So a lot of folks, at least from my early perspective, was a lot of hopelessness. They thought their community was dying and it felt like they needed rescue. And so I was like, I just asked the Lord, just teach me how to change that mindset and that culture. Well, about a month later in Benham, which we've got 3 little towns in that valley. You've got Lynch, you've got Benham, and you've got Cumberland. And Lynch is at the highest point right before Black Mountain in that little valley. But about a month after I prayed that prayer, a women's rehab center opened up in Benham, which is a couple minutes down the road. And I got a phone call asking, hey, we hear you're a new pastor in the area. Would you be willing to come and teach a Bible study at our women's center? And I said yes to that. And part of my prayer to the Lord was, God, I just want to say yes to whatever you lay out in front of me. So I started saying yes to a lot of things. Sometimes we say yes too many times. But I said yes to that, started teaching a Bible study. And then the staff pulled me in the office one day and said, Pastor T, which is what all of them call me, we need you to pray about something. I said, okay, what can I pray about? They said, we would love it if a local church hosted a Celebrate Recovery program that we could bus our girls to. Now, Celebrate Recovery is a 12-step program. It is more church-based or faith-based, at least in theme. It was founded at Saddleback Valley Community Church in California. Pastor Rick Warren, a lot of folks know him from Purpose Driven Life book, Purpose Driven Church books that he's put out. And that's where that ministry had started. And so we started to Celebrate Recovery there, trained our people, we launched it. And then it just seemed like one thing after another happened. I was asked at the time, they were trying to establish a ASAP board in Harlan County, and I was asked to participate with that, and I said yes. Tom Machini, who's sitting here in the back here, asked me if I'd start attending Operation Unite meetings. I said yes to him. And after all of those things were happening, I had a panic moment because I had not had a substance addiction. And I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm not qualified for this. Folks who have been through, I can never look at one of these girls in this rehab center or any of these folks that come to our Celebrate Recovery. I can never look at them and tell them, I've been where you've been. And I'm not sure where everybody is with their faith and relationship with God and how he communicates to us, but I felt as though he communicated to me in a very radical way and said, it's not you that qualifies you, it's me that qualifies you. And then he said, do you remember what you prayed for? You asked me to teach you how to change the culture in this valley. And I've been doing precisely that. You go after the addiction problem in this valley, you will change the culture here. That was an epiphany for me. And pretty much particularly anything related to ministry, helping whatever I can in the area of addiction recovery. I just about to say yes to all of that because I just feel like that is why God brought me to East Kentucky. I now serve as the spiritual life coach at Lydia's house, which is the name of the rehab center there in Benham. So my role there has stepped up. Meridzo Center Ministries, the parachurch entity that I mentioned, we have now also opened a transition house for women that was launched just back in October. And we're already starting to get our first ladies in there to help them transition post rehab and transition them into getting jobs, getting themselves established on their feet and into productive lives again. So, and the heart of all of our ministry efforts really got rolling through that self-help group, Celebrate Recovery. That's where all those contacts, relationships, and so forth kind of got established and met. And from a pastor standpoint, and for those of you maybe churchgoer standpoint, this is almost going to sound bragging, but I'm going to brag on God a little bit. Since 2019, we've baptized over 350 of them ladies, which to me is just, it blows my mind when I say it out loud that God has used the Celebrate Recovery Ministry and all of those other things that we're doing to impact their lives in such a way. So obviously being a pastor and involved in a parachurch group, obviously our focus is going to be a lot on the salvations and decisions for Christ and so forth. But as our role as a faith-based group, I don't know of any community that hasn't been impacted by the drug problem. And I believe that the churches should be one of the frontline groups that are going out trying to reach people and help people in those areas. And sometimes the faith groups are not. And maybe somehow today or any way that influence that I may have, if I can convince other pastors of the need of churches getting involved in this tremendous need, then I feel like I've accomplished something.
Absolutely. What are some of the questions that you may have, or something that you would like the panel to address? Yes,
I'm trying to know where that transitional living house is.
It's in Lynch. We actually have established it in a different way. Since Meridzo Center is its own 501c3, what do you call it? Nonprofit, thank you. Under that umbrella, we've created a ministry that we call Redeemed Living Transitions, which happens to also provide housing. So what we've tried to do with that is not let the house be the center of the attraction, but the ministry to be the center of the attraction. Because we've actually, even though we only opened our house back in October, prior to October, we have already helped, I think it's 9 ladies in transition prior to even having that house to focus that ministry in. We have the ministry there. We've got some properties and we've got some apartments. And so we would put a girl up in an apartment or maybe we had a house where we had 4 girls in at one time that we only had access to for a number of months. We've got a mission retreat center, which is the old coal mine hospital there. That's the base of operations for our ministry. We've put girls up in there at times. And like I said, the focus of our heart focus is getting them back into a productive way of society, but kind of discipling them along the way, reinforcing their faith. And not that all girls that come through are saved or faith-minded, but they at least see that element as we help them into transition. But it's in Lynch, Kentucky. We actually call that house the Northport Lodge. And the reason we call it that is a church in Alabama named Northport Baptist Church bought the house, gave it to our ministry. And we at first really didn't know what we were supposed to do with the house. So we slowly but surely worked on it, but in no rush. And then we had a gal from the rehab center who needed help. She had to pay back restitution And so she needed a second job to be able to pay back some of her restitution, and she worked for our coffee shop. Our ministry's got a coffee shop there. And when she approached her graduation point from the rehab center, she said something to us that was profound. She says, I can't go back home. Because if I go back home, that's where all those influences are. She says, I need a new start or a fresh start in a new place. And when the founder of her ministry overheard her saying that at our coffee shop, the light bulb went off. We know what we're supposed to do at this house now. It's to be that fresh start in a new place for these gals coming out of rehab. Yeah, that's right. Uh, 8 girls. We have a house mom who lives on campus there. 8 tenants outside of her. She would make 9. The program goal is to have them transitioned within 2 years, but we're doing it by case by case. If the situation arises, they need to stay longer. We're not just going to kick them out on the street 2 years. The heart of it is to transition, but have a goal set to try to do it in 2 years. If it takes longer, it takes longer.
And did they pay rent something?
They will. When they first arrive, we don't charge rent. We give them a chance to kind of get settled, help them find a job, that kind of thing. And then month 2 is when we start looking at paying rent for that.
With the jobs, I think that there are huge problems with transportation in the region.
Right.
Can you help them get to work and back?
We can, and we do. And matter of fact, our house mom right now, she has her driver's license, and we have a ministry pickup truck right now. We hope God will send us a van at some point, but we've got a little pickup truck that our ministry has that the house mom, we let her drive, and she carts them around that way.
Well, it sounds like one of the main things is that installation of hope, and that. How do you guys see that your program provides that installation of hope to your people?
So ours is simply put in the initial conversation. So as it's been mentioned, we work with 12-step program of recovery. There's an entire chapter dedicated to working with others in the book. Mm-hmm. And the working with others chapter is what we do, is carrying the message of recovery. And usually the hope is installed in a gal within an hour or 2, because really it's very simple for me. She lost in the woods and I know the way out. I've been in those same woods. I know what that path looks like. I know what those trees look like, and I know those twists and turns. And all I have to do is describe to her exactly what that is and exactly what that path looks like, what that path feels like, what the challenges on that path can be, what the impossibilities on that path can be, and share with her exactly how it is that I was able to overcome that. And once I can really show her what that looks like, it becomes possible. And you can't not have hope. That's what you are defaulted to. You now have a solution. You now have a plan B that'll work. Mm-hmm. Just like it's been spoken to. We're unknowingly persistent with our plan A. We don't know that we have an alcohol problem. We don't know that we have a disease that centers in our mind. We don't know these things. It's all we've known. Mm-hmm. The book speaks to that. We no longer differentiate the truth from the false. The standard of living is constantly modified based on this disease that's driving me, these feelings that are driving me. We're so obsessed with our feelings, we don't even know it. We're looking for relief, and we don't even know that we're looking for relief. And so when I can show her the fact that I can get relief from the way that she's feeling without a bottle in my hand, she'll follow. That's the inevitable outcome.
In Al-Anon, where our hope comes from is, if you come the first time and before you leave, we welcome you, and then when we leave, we invite you to keep coming back. And sometimes they keep coming back, and they find something there that is worth coming back to. And because it's like camaraderie, we find somebody that's had the same experience we've had. They've been angry, they've been disappointed, and their life has just been so affected by somebody else's failings. And we sit in the room there with other people that have been where they are. And because they see that we have been, past tense, And hope comes from the past tense, and knowing that this person has been where I am and something, and they say it's from coming to these rooms and developing a faith in a power greater than ourselves, that they talk about in the fellowship, and we are a fellowship. We're not an organization. We're not a program. You'll hear us referred to a lot of times as the program, but we're not a program. We're not an organization. We're a fellowship. We're a fellowship of men and women who have been affected by somebody else's drinking. And we find out that we didn't cause them to drink. We can't cure them and we can't control it. So when we find that out, somehow that gives us an amount of freedom that we didn't know was possible. And so there's some hope. And because it's a spiritual program, you can't develop a spiritual program and have a relationship with God without having some hope. Everybody that has a relationship with God has hope. We have hope that we're going to someday leave this life and go to a better one. We have hope that good things are going to happen. And when we're in the people that we associate with, it's so important. If we're around toxic people, we're much more apt to become toxic ourselves. So when you come to the rooms in our fellowship, you won't be around toxic people. And so that's a reason to have hope. And it's a spiritual thing. It just happens. It just happens. Osmosis.
Hope, I think, is, I often say faith is trusting God in the now, and hope is trusting God in the later. And what is it that we trust in God for the later? And that's the promises of God. Whether that promise would be eternal life with Him, or the promise be that He will always be with us and never forsake us. You know, those are the promises of God. And when you communicate those, once you start believing the promises of God, then when all that hope really comes rushing in. Now, with our Celebrate Recovery, as far as trying to demonstrate hope there, the name of the building that we conducted in is called the Hope House. So it kind of starts as soon as they walk in. And then the format of Celebrate Recovery is it's a 2-hour program. And the first hour is actually a worship setting. So there's a lot of singing, a lot of praising God, that kind of thing that happens that first hour. And the whole title, Celebrate Recovery, is celebrating those victories, you know, one day more sober, you know, 1 week more sober. And just like with AA, we have sobriety chips that we hand out to reward them when they've gotten 30 days or 60 days or whatever. And you'll find, and I know AA, they feel the same way. They love earning those things. It's a badge of honor when they get presented one of those sobriety chips or coins, and then they start looking forward to earning the next one. And with a lot of the ones that we deal with, sometimes when the rehab girls, when they get ready to move away, a lot of them don't want their coin one day early. Even if they might be leaving one day early, they want to make sure they get it when they've earned it. And it's just a neat thing to see in them as they grow. But hope, I think hope, well, there's 2 kinds of hope. You got worldly hope, and you've got what I call godly hope. Worldly hope can also be called wishful thinking. One of us might say, I hope somebody will deliver a Lamborghini to my house tonight. You can hope that all you want. It's probably not going to happen, right? That's why that's wishful thinking. But hope, from a godly perspective, hope is something, I'm hoping in something that is guaranteed. Because when God makes a promise, He keeps His promises. And so hope that's wishful thinking is empty, but hope in something you know has been promised and is guaranteed. That's a whole different kind of hope altogether. And that's the kind of hope that we try to communicate.
I think some of it as well comes from kind of the small successes that, I mean, sometimes the only success that the person has is like, you are in the room tonight. You may not be sober, but you're here. So you come, and then what can we do next, and how can we help, and to just keep going with that. One of the things, I mean, looking at just out, just out in the lobby, the Unite wall that you have, and just seeing all of the people on there, and that's just a small part. So I think that's one of the things that you were talking about earlier. So. What other, do you guys have any other questions?
I've got a question.
Okay.
I can't remember her name. Yeah, Beth.
Mhm.
Beth. Did you say that you would go to, areas and help, like start meetings or a meeting or?
So what our fellowship, so the answer is yes. But our fellowship has a service structure. And so the service structure goes from the general service office, which is located in New York, and that encompasses the United States and Canada. Then within the United States and Canada, we have areas. Within Area 26, we have the state of Kentucky, a little bit of Ohio, and a little bit of Indiana. Within Area 26, we have, I think, 60-something, 50-something districts. And those districts are broken up by county. So my current service position right now is cooperation with the professional community with Area 26. So what we do, and what I'll do, is I'll communicate to the alcoholics I know that are in that district in your county. And then they have district meetings, and then they directly communicate with persons who have home groups, AA meeting groups, or can start new AA meetings. So yes, directly, we can, that's what we do, is we facilitate starting meetings. What I would do, my responsibility would be to communicate that with the district, so that the district can communicate that with that county and with that city.
Okay.
It's a lot of information. So the answer is yes. And that's how that works. When I don't show up on your front door, that's why.
Well, yeah, actually, I don't know if I should put all this out there, but, I am a member in good standing of Alcoholics Anonymous, and September I will have, an 8-year medallion. And so my grandmother, has been in Al-Anon for as long as I've been born, so over 40 years. And so was my grandfather, and he passed away, and my father, was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's passed away. But, what the reason I was asking is it's one of my dreams to start a meeting. And it seems like, I would be the only one, and, just as a woman, what if there's men alcoholics, and I would love to have some support starting a meeting, in the town.
So what I can do is I can get you connected with recovered female alcoholics in your area. And so we can talk after this meeting.
Good
And that's
luck
what we
on
can
that. I can't wait to find out where they are.
Okay.
I know, pretty much, I go all over the place. I have to travel for mine, and so, but I work in the place, and, it's just something that's very needed. But
Yeah, and it is not easy. I mean, that's,
I know that there's some meetings in, London and Corbin and Somerset.
What
and,
town are you thinking of?
Manchester, Kentucky. And then there's meetings in Berea, Richmond, Lexington, Louisville. I go to all those places, but Manchester is, I would love to just start one, but I feel like it would just be me forever,
I know, maybe part of it be on Monday and freedom.
It does seem like in a lot of instances that they're, kind of, that people are there in secret,
Well, actually, I guess there is, a VOA meeting.
and that,
But the thing about that is like that, that's their job and they kind of get paid to do that. And that's not what I'm a part of. So that,
yeah.
for me, that breaks my traditions. And,
Right.
and I just want something that's like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying.
You know what you're talking about. Yes. Yeah, we can talk after the session, just more personally. And it is not easy. I mean, our responsibility isn't easy. I'll be completely truthful. I've spoken the fact that we're here for free. There are no dues or fees. I'm literally here because it is my life.
Mhm.
I don't mean my life as in my life as a whole. I mean life or death.
Yeah.
My service and recovery is vital to my life.
Mhm.
So we're a 3 legacy program, unity, service and recovery, and I have to stay current in that. We haven't spoken to the fact that you're never free from this. This isn't a disease of sort that ever disappears. I will die with alcoholism. I just won't have to die from it. And in doing so, that's part of the responsibilities and it's not even just starting with meetings, but it's even making sure that I'm available for her, whoever she is. And it's sometimes difficult to start meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Usually because we become so accustomed, we're so, Al-Anons don't have a corner on the market when it comes to control. And so we don't like to deviate from what we think is enough in our norm. That's kind of what got us in the illness in the first place. I've done that same thing in regards to starting meeting, and it took some time. My home group is a women's meeting. It's been established for 6 years, and there have been times when it's just myself. Not a lot, cute because that's just boring. But there's been other times when it's myself and one other person.
Well, I just know that it would need, you know, how we need a tribe and it needs support and
Agreed.
me alone, like, I just,
Mhm.
you know, I would have to continue to travel for my recovery and do that to help the next one come in the door, you know? And that would be how that worked. But if men came, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, I just would love to have support, like, the support network.
It's gonna, yeah, and the kind of the entire program, we can't do this by ourselves.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
When I first came to Al-Anon 1,000 years ago, those 3 ladies in the room, one of them, she traveled to the different places. She went to all the recovery conferences and other meetings. And she got what recovery she got from being in those larger groups. She brought back to that little group in Corbin that had 3 other women in it. And we kind of looked to her and gravitated toward her because she carried a message of hope back that the women that didn't travel a lot, that were in there and they just stayed there in the Corbin area. We look forward to Linda showing up because she had some real good recovery because it came her willingness to go out. And I hear you talk about willingness that you're going to other places and you're preparing yourself for a time when you may have to sit in some of the rooms alone. I've done that. I've tried to start out on meetings and I sit there and nobody show up. And sometimes, but now, you know, you never know. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so we don't know when that student's going to appear and we need to be the teacher. And I found that sometimes I'm the teacher and sometimes I'm the student. Works pretty good that way. But don't give up on traveling and going places as long as you can, because you'll be able to use that recovery that you bring back from the other places. Manchester, God knows Manchester needs it.
I really can't give up. Like, my life depends on it, like she said. So, yeah, that's what I have to do for now. Just, you know, my life depends on it. Unless I want to relocate and be in that good, strong, support group.
Sometimes in Al-Anon, and I don't know your situation that well, but we have what we call the 40-pound telephone. And although we have a phone list in our group and we give you a list of people and their phone numbers when you can, it's real hard to call somebody sometimes, especially in Al-Anon, we think, oh, they don't want to bother me. I'm so down here, you know, they want to spend their time. And it's real hard to call somebody, but you can get some phone numbers of recovery.
Oh, I've got that's the only reason I really have a phone, you know? And I have, a whole tribe. I just say I have to use my phone and travel to connect with them.
And you can have a long distance sponsor. You know, I don't have your set with sponsorship right now, but you can have a sponsor that you can call and she doesn't have to be in Manchester and just, you know, establish that relationship to where you can have that person and she'll know you really well and you'll be helping her as much as it helps you to call.
I had a sponsor the whole time and actually, it's wonderful. And if it's not, I have to go make it wonderful, you know?
Yeah.
If it's not good, I have to go, like, my life depends on it. I'm saying,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. And persistence and keeping up with,
I have
this
actually, I have
fall
a
recovery
family that
people.
travels all over the world carrying the message, so get to see them frequently. Yeah,
Wonderful.
and they are a very good, run.
Okay.
And I have actually called my sponsor once a week since I've been on this journey for almost 8 years. And yeah, so it's a little.
Yeah,
That's the key.
it is definitely. Now, we were about 5 to 4. What are the final messages that you would like to share with people today?
One question in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
One thing about online, start hearing about during
Mhm.
COVID.
During COVID, yes, yeah.
Good, bad. Depends on the.
It depends, I think, yeah. So, yeah.
My experience has been that again, it's the identification is vital. And you have we're talking about a program of spirit. We're talking about an understanding and in faith in a power greater than ourselves. We have faith in God. And that happens in person. I've yet to have that experience with many persons on a virtual format. But I will say, given the opportunity to speak and communicate is a blessing in itself. And so recognizing the fact that I'm speaking in recovery, about recovery to those interested in recovery, that in itself is something to be appreciated and something I get to thank God for. So, do I think it's effective in regards to helping the suffering alcoholic? I do question that, but again, by any means necessary, I'm gonna appreciate that.
Absolutely.
My opinion's ditto.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and there are times when that's the only option. So, I mean, if that's the only option, between that and going out and using, then I think certainly.
COVID did a lot with online meetings too, because with our Celebrate Recovery, there for a time, that was the thing to do. So we actually did, and you just, with all the people who are coming to you Celebrate Recovery, you find a way to get them that link.
Right.
So you can, for everybody to be able to get online, and we did pretty good with it during that time. It's still better, obviously, online, in person, but that is one of the good things about the internet. You can make good uses of it, if possible.
Yeah, and that's the transportation thing too. There's been people that I've seen that have absolutely no transportation to get anywhere, and they can do that.
But now I guess my final plugs would be the availability of resources with Alcoholics Anonymous. We are, as the book says, we're a baffling lot. We are confusing. We are just nothing but a hot mess. So when you do come across persons that may have a drinking problem and you have done everything that you can in order to assist them, may want to try to reach out to Alcoholics Anonymous because we have a way of turning things around. Again, we're in the business of hope. Alcoholics Anonymous is available on the internet, talking about AA.org. We have a LinkedIn page. I'm sitting here. And I kind of went over it broadly, but it's really important to understand that the General Service Office in regards to New York, Canada, the areas within the state and in the district, there are contacts. It's just making those contacts, and that's something that we're working more on. Your medical community is on our front line, so I have the responsibility to try to get in touch with you. So please understand that I'm trying to do everything I can to help you help us. So anyway, if you would like to give me your contact information.
Final thoughts, yes.
Well, just thank you all for listening, and because you will come in contact with families that are still suffering. Know, if you did not know already, that Al-Anon is there, and that it's a spiritual program. And I don't know, when I go to my rooms, it's like when Bob walks in the room, it's like there's God. When Mary walks in the room, there's God, because I'm looking for God. And I'm looking for God to show up in the rooms when I get there. And it's just like going on my front porch in the morning with my coffee, and God's always waiting out there. He's always there when I get there with my coffee. And so that's how it is when I go to the rooms. And I hope you all have a similar experience.
Guess the last finishing thought with Celebrate Recovery, they do have a nationwide network where you can go to celebraterecovery.org, and they will show you every single meeting, Celebrate Recovery meeting in the country. And so you can map it, look to what meetings might be close to you or whatever, and find out what those meeting places are, the times and so forth. So I'm guessing they probably may do the same. But I do know you can do that with Celebrate Recovery and find any Celebrate Recovery meeting that's happening. I guess my other final note would simply be just from the faith-based side of things. I often, and part of this is what statement also comes from the experience that I've got with being a spiritual life coach at the rehab center. Because I've come to find that this is what I call front lines ministry. If you look at the major social problems of the day, like human trafficking, domestic violence, child abuse, you'll see the thread of drugs going through every bit of that. And so these ministries, these opportunities that we're talking about, it is on the battlefront. And I guess my encouragement, if there's no pastors in here, those of you who go to church, go back, talk to your pastor and say, hey, look, there's such a need in this particular area for churches to get involved, for them to get a heart. And sometimes, and I guess I can say this because I've been a pastor, sometimes I think the church mentality can look at addiction from a judgmental standpoint. And I think that heart needs to be changed. And the compassion for the need, and to see how that one thing affects so many other things that we face in our society as a whole. I just really think that our churches and pastors, I would hope, could bind together and help fight the problem.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you guys, and we appreciate our audience. And if you have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you.
We will be here.
Thank you so much.